We woke on day 7 of the cycle tour to rain, which had begun falling during the night. Our camp was set up under bushes and small trees, which provided some shelter, but not enough to keep the tent and our bikes dry. We knew this rain was coming though, but didn't feel like it would be heavy enough to stop us camping based on the forecast. Unfortunately, we were wrong. The rain was definitely enough to feel cold and uncomfortable packing down camp, and it wasn't leaving in a hurry.
This was our first properly wet morning, and it taught us another cycle tour lesson. Avoid camping in the rain at all costs. It's possible we could have used the tsunami shelter, but being an emergency structure and lit up all night, it didn't feel right. However, we did take advantage of it to stay ever so slightly drier while shaking and wiping down the tent before folding it away. Like other mornings, we were joined by a keen local using the space to exercise. In Japan, it seems camping and exercise areas go hand in hand.
Once our camp was packed down, we loaded the bikes and rode back to the other seaside park we saw the night before, to cook breakfast under the shelter and also catch up on YouTube videos, an important part of cycle touring.
You don't have that association with it being overused? No, I've never feared it. No. And so for many years I was...
Then, it was time to head off on a very dismal morning back into town.
We'd already decided that riding in the rain was not very fun, so our first destination was our new favourite supermarket, Max Value. We enjoyed an hour or so browsing the aisles and tasting Shizuoka's finest pre-packed meals in the store eating area.
Once the heavy rain had passed through, we made our way 1.5 kilometres across town to our first planned stop of the day, the Toro archaeological site, which was looking magnificently sodden post-downpour. At least we could avoid the rain on the ground. Toro is an archaeological site of a settlement dating back to the late Yayoi period, some 2,000 years ago. The site was discovered during the construction of a munitions factory in 1943, during World War II. It is one of the most significant Yayoi sites in Japan, and its discovery and subsequent excavation in 1947 caused the formation of the Japanese Archaeological Association.
The discovery elicited considerable attention from academics and the community, and it was the first time remains of rice paddy fields from the Yayoi period were found in Japan, establishing the image of Yayoi people being wet rice farmers. As well as the agricultural remains, archaeological findings included many pit house dwellings, refuse pits and raised floor buildings, likely storehouses and ceremonial structures. The preservation at the Toro site was so complete that a large number of 2,000-year-old wooden farming tools were excavated. It was designated a Special Historic Site of Japan in 1952, and now includes a museum and open-air reconstruction of the buildings and rice fields.
A cool experience they offer is traditional bow drill firemaking, and we just so happened to come across a volunteer who invited Gwen to have a go. Gwen, being the expert archaeologist she is, knew exactly what to do. However, the rainy conditions did dampen the progress. After some stick sharpening and once enough calories were burned, so did the timber, and out came an ember, or as the volunteer aptly called it, a fire baby. This was then added to some loose fibre, which took alight, ready to start a much needed fire to warm us up. Unfortunately for us, but probably sensibly considering the surroundings, the fire was extinguished.
We thanked the volunteer and moved out of the rain and into a small building to the north of the site. It's not the main museum, but still showed some images of the excavation and had a wealth of information. If there's one thing you aren't short of in Japan, it's photos, facts and figures.
Would we recommend visiting the Todo site? Yes, but probably only in good weather and with some more time. Whilst it was interesting to see the physical site and the reconstruction, for me it would have been a little more complete to also visit the proper museum as well. Something for next time.
Our next stop was an outdoor goods shop called Lodge, which was another recommendation from Kosei and Canberra. We made our way into the centre of Shizuoka, which was an interesting town, being twice the size of the city where we live, but feeling noticeably small in the scale of Japanese cities.
The shop itself was packed full of fun retro outdoor gear. I think it mostly sells new old stock, or at least very well kept second-hand equipment. It was cool to see a local outdoor shop in another country, but we realised that there wasn't much for us to buy as we didn't have any space and we already had everything we needed. We ended up buying some of their shop-branded Odin soup, which is a Shizuoka meibutsu, a local specialty, and apparently a nostalgic food eaten on camping trips in Japan. It felt appropriate.
With dinner sorted and the clock deep into the PM, we had to make significant grounds towards Shimada, where we had booked a guest house for the night. Classic move, spending the morning looking at stuff and the afternoon madly cycling to get to our destination.
There was still plenty to see on the route, such as this huge cathedral-looking building that's actually used for Western-themed weddings, a fun mosaic bridge across the Abe River, a train went past, which is always exciting, and we had a snack break under a lonely pine tree, which is one remaining of many which once lined the old Tokaido route.
We turned off the main road and navigated some tiny streets towards the Muruko River, our own highway which would lead us towards the main feature punctuating our route today, Utsunoya Pass. The ascent of the pass was blissfully out of mind for the time being, as we enjoyed an incredibly scenic ride along the river, with sakura blooming overhead and the fallen petals beneath our wheels.
Even though it was still fairly cold and overcast, this stretch was a delight after such a dismal morning. Everything felt fresh after the rain, and the cloudy scenery was perfect as we slowly climbed in altitude. Most importantly, we were dry, which really does go a long way to make everything feel better.
The cycling route hit a bit of a snag at a cutting, where due to construction work we were forced to make a decision between cycling on the highway or crossing over two pedestrian overpasses. We of course took the latter in the name of safety.
Oh, it's slippery. Much better here. Holy moly. I wouldn't want to be carrying more than this. This is terrifying. It's quite remarkable how little you notice the weight of your bike until you have to push it upstairs. At least Japan builds infrastructure with cycling in mind. This would be almost impossible without the ramps. On the other side we had a great view of the works which forced our diversion, which will hopefully improve the route for cyclists in the future.
Soon enough, we had to do it again to return to the left side of the road.
I was just saying, you wouldn't want to travel with much more weight than this.
No.
This is like almost the max I can push.
Heavy bikes and slippery tiles was not a good combination. The good news was that we just had to follow signs now towards the pass.
We turned off the highway following the old Tokaido route, which would lead us towards a Meiji-era tunnel through the pass. This might have been an oversight at the time, however, as the more modern highway tunnel included a footpath for bikes and pedestrians. Or perhaps I did know this, but wanted to experience the historical route, worn by centuries of travel across the country. Either way, it was far nicer to ride in the fresh air with views of the surrounding hills, giving the landscape the respect it deserves.
Off the main road, the birdsong and sounds of bubbling streams filled our ears. It was a completely new world. The small village at the foot of the pass was something special. The row houses lining the thin street were looking resplendent in their mountain mist-soaked timber exteriors.
Sadly, our schedule meant we couldn't enjoy the experience for very long. After the town, we gained elevation very quickly, and a slippery brick road meant stopping was legitimately dangerous. I think we had to veer onto the grass a few times to catch our breath and avoid slipping further down. No footage of that for obvious reasons. Once near the top, and after a short break, we rode the final stretch of the climb towards the tunnel. At the tunnel was a small park, with toilets, a shelter, and of course, lots of information about the area. It would have made a fantastic campsite. Amazingly, there was a scale model of the mountains and roads, remarkably well kept considering its outdoor and public location. Here is a bird's eye view of our route, turning off the modern highway, following the river, up through the Utsunoya village, and into the Meiji Age Tunnel. We will emerge at the western portal and continue down the road towards Shimada.
Whilst we were here, a family in a retro sedan pulled up and started taking photos. The dad was very friendly and took some photos of us, and we repaid the favour. It's nice that places like this are still appreciated by locals.
We then made our way into the cold, damp, brick-lined tunnel with its bright, warm lamps guiding us through.
We are in the Meiji Age Tunnel. It's very well paved. Do you think this is the original floor surface? This is so cool. How awesome. You want to go on the cutter? Slow moving. Alright. Ready?
It started raining again as we began our descent on the other side.
Once down, it was a simple meander along the river in the fairly miserable conditions towards Shimada. It's interesting watching these sections back. When viewing other cycle touring videos before our trip, I always found the general riding montages quite engaging, and didn't understand why they didn't show more. I liked feeling as if I was there, with the scenery slowly passing by. I suppose to get a sense of escape. Now, watching these parts of our own cycle, I feel these moments are actually quite dull compared to a lot of what we did. That being said, they are an accurate representation of the route from A to B, so I'll keep them in.
My ride with GPS just got a Japanese voice. Like genuinely, first time I've heard it, it's always been American, now it's Japanese.
Entering Shimada, we rejoined the blue cycling lines, which had kept disappearing and reappearing by chance along our route, but their presence always provided positive reinforcement that we'd made a good decision.
The light was fading, but fortunately so was the rain, and we had a straightforward run in through the evening traffic.
The next 15 minutes or so was spent finding the guest house, which managed to elude us somewhat comically. We went back and forth up 3 cul-de-sacs until realising we'd actually passed the unassuming residents twice already.
Our tatami room was very welcome after a cold, wet day, and our host provided some mats so our grubby bags didn't damage the floor. It was now time to relax, eat our odin, and enjoy a good night's sleep. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.